Well guys, this is the time of the year in which fawns are dropping. And I'm extremely worried about this in the Northwoods, especially where we have a high amount of predators, whether it be the black bears. Guys, oh my goodness, these black bears pick these fawns off like crazy. Nobody wants to talk about that. We're not gonna talk about it in this video that much. I'm not gonna gripe about it, I'm not gonna whine about it, but you got your coyotes, you got your wolves, and you know, you got your nesting predators. You got all sorts of different predators that could end up at the, at the end of the day be feeding on these fawns, guys. And we need to make sure that we have the appropriate things in place on our property so that these fawns can make it, because a large majority of these fawns just don't. So when it comes to making sure that deer and fawns can ultimately thrive on your property, guys, the first thing that I like to pay attention to this time of year is the predation. Can I be trapping coons and coyotes and some of these other predators that at the end of the day are going to be running rampant through the woods, picking these things off in their first couple days? Because what we need to realize is these fawns are completely defenseless these first couple days after birth. So coyotes are definitely a big priority this time of year for me. A lot of guys like to hunt them in the Januaries and Februaries during what I would call their breeding season. But the reality is, we know via research now that some of these coyotes are traveling as much as 35 miles in a day and a half. So you could do all the damage you wanted in January and February. The reality is it doesn't really make a difference in May, when a lot of these, in late April, early May, when a lot of these fawns start dropping. So having another go at it this time of year is absolutely important. Now, I don't know that many of us can do much about the bear population legally during the spring, and it is what it is. I guess what I would say is maybe we back up 6 months, and if you have a fall bear season, doesn't hurt to get out there. And I know it's during the fall, but put a little effort into it, whether you can run dogs in your area, whether you can archery hunt them or bait hunt them. I absolutely would do so, because these bears are one of the biggest detriments to our fawning population, without a doubt. So now let's say we checked that box, we did a little bit of predator control, and we maybe killed a couple coyotes, or we did whatever else we could. The other thing that I want to make sure that I have on my property, and there's not much you can do about it right now, but maybe you need to put this in your notes for next year, is make sure that we have insane amounts of high stem count cover. Places where these fawns can ultimately hide and get out of dodge if they need to, run away from a predator, just ultimately make it tougher on a predator so that they can survive. At the end of the day, we got to have thick properties, and that's a benefit for buck bedding, doe bedding, and especially this fawn bedding and this fawning that takes place this time of year. So back it up a couple months. That's why I'm going to be working heavily on my timber, making sure that it's thick, and not only thick during September and October, guys, but I want it thick in November and December so that I can't see more than 40, 50, 60 yards in some locations. If you have a property, guys, where you can see 100, 200, 300 yards, that's bad. That's bad. And if you are the small property, the 20 to 40 acres, guys, you need to put all your eggs in one basket. Now, I think you should have a food plot, and I think you should maybe pay attention to some other small details, but you need to be the thickest property on the block. And if you did that, you're gonna have more buck activity, but you're also gonna be saving these fawns, which ultimately turn into bucks at the end of the day, guys. So high stem count cover on your property, making sure that we're doing timber stand improvement. When in doubt, look up. What trees are the ones that are blocking the sunlight from hitting the forest floor? And hell, even this time of year, maybe I'm going out and I'm doing a little bit more TSI. And if I had to be honest with you, I'm almost grimacing as I think about this and kind of thinking I shouldn't be saying this, but if there was ever a time of the year in which I would say hinge cutting could be a good idea, and I'm not a hinge cutter, guys. I've worked on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of properties all across the country. I've maybe recommended it 5 to 10 times. If there was ever a habitat improvement that might be worth making this time of year in and around these bedding areas before the fawns drop, or as they start to drop, guys, I might be going in there and doing a little bit of hinge cutting, because the one perk that I do like about hinge cutting is immediate satisfaction for you, but immediate side cover for the deer. And now if there is more side cover, there's more cover. And at the end of the day, predation will take place less if these doe fawns or these buck fawns, just fawns in general, have places to hide, guys. Another thing that I like to make sure that I'm doing on my properties is I have spring food in there. I like to make sure I have the clovers, the chicories, and the alfalfas, so that these does that are ultimately fawning on having fawns on my property don't have to go far in order to browse. If they got to go to a destination field XYZ and leave this fawn for XYZ hours, leave them for a fair amount of time, it's just time in which they're unattended, and that's when bad things happen. Not that this doe can completely stop a black bear from you know, doing what it's going to do to this fawn. But at the end of the day, the closer that these fawns can spend time to their mothers, the safer they will most likely be. And within a couple days, hopefully they can take off and start running around and kind of get away from these predators, guys. So there's a couple things you can do when it comes to making sure that your fawn herd has a higher success rate than maybe it has in the past, guys. I'd be paying attention to cover, I'd be paying attention to your food, but I'd ultimately be paying attention to your predators. And I know we can't handle all these things right now, but maybe they need to go on your to-do list. Maybe maybe you need to start shooting some more coyotes early, even though I'd prefer you'd shoot them right now because of how far they travel, and really focus, if you do have bears in your neck of the woods, figuring out a way, whether it's allowing people who have the permits or the tags to come out and harvest those animals legally and remove them from the landscape. Because at the end of the day, guys, in a lot of places where there are bears and black bears, the numbers are out of whack. It's getting ridiculous, and we need to make sure that we manage them. So predator control is absolutely a major part of this, guys. Making sure you have high stem count cover, and then making sure that you have correlating food sources next to these thick areas, so that the mothers don't have to go far to feed, and hopefully spend more time in and around those fawning areas. And at the end of the day, hopefully we can up the rate of success when it comes to fawns that are making it through the season, guys. Good luck.